Good evening and welcome to the Swindon 24 live election debate right here at Create Studios. Independent screening cinema, sofa screenings and a professional video production team. Also hosted by local business MC Online Events. Tonight we are joined by 5 candidates standing to represent Swindon. Jim Robbins, current leader of the council from Labour. Tom Butcher from the Green Party. Gary Sumner from the Conservatives.
Hello.
Casey Sherwood from Reform UK.
Hello.
And Stan Pajak from Liberal Democrats.
Good evening.
Thank you all for being here. Voter turnout in elections not linked to government elections is around 30%. This debate is designed to help voters, especially those voting for the first time. In the audience, there are many first-time voters. We'll cover the key issues facing Swindon, including council finances, public services, growth, and the future of the town, as well as some questions from those young people. Let's begin with some opening statements from each of the candidates. First up, you have 1 minute. Gary Sumner.
Good evening. I am the leader of the Conservative group in Swindon. We ran the council for 19 years. We kept books balanced. We didn't have to borrow money from government or sell assets in order to balance the books. And we want to take Swindon back to sensible financial judgment. We love our town. We have passion for our town. We want to see it succeed. We want to see our young people succeed. And as far as we're concerned, the council has some issues at the moment which have become embedded, and we want to dig our way out of that. And we have a plan to go forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Casey Sherwood, Reform UK.
So I'm Casey Sherwood. I am the candidate standing in Coveringham and Knive Ward. I've lived in Swindon all my life, brought up my family here, worked here, and until recently, back in December, I worked for Swindon Borough Council as part of the Swindon 2028 programme, and that to give me an insight into the way things are operating within the council. And that's why it's key that we get a handle on this wastage and this £400 million debt to start putting the services first and getting the finances they need to support our residents.
Thank you, Casey. Jim Robbins from Labour.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the invite to be here tonight. Serving as leader of the council is without doubt the hardest job that I've ever had to do, but it's also the best. Every single day we have to make decisions on how to spend money for our town and how to make sure that we are making sensible decisions because we know about the real consequences for residents in the town. I don't take that responsibility lightly, and I hope that all of you, when you're thinking about who to vote for, will be thinking really hard about who they want to run their council for the next 4 years. 3 years ago, when Labour took control, Swindon clearly needed a change of direction, and that's what we think we've delivered. We've put in place the Swindon Plan, a really clear, mission-driven programme focused on building a fairer, greener, better Swindon. That's what we want to do. We know that we're creating jobs again. We know that we're working on the town centre. Really excited to have got more money coming in. The plan is working. Let's stick with it. And over 4 years, we can really transform the town.
Thank you, Jim. Stan Pajak, Liberal Democrats.
Well, good evening. It gives me great pleasure to be here. I've been a Swindon person all my life. I was born in Swindon. My family's come from Swindon. So it's very exciting to be in this election because I think it's one of the most interesting elections we've ever had. Whoever's elected this May will be in power for 4 years. No by-elections, so that will change that, I don't think. So it's very important you get the right people for the job. You have before you all the candidates. And I'd like to say what the Liberal Democrats stand for. We're all about people, the idea of actually serving you. We won't change the government with this election. We will change, hopefully, your lives for the better. Because we serve Swindon. The idea as a candidate, actually you have to serve the people who elect you. Therefore, we all stand in for our individual wards to make sure they get the best deal, to be a voice for them actually on the council. That's the crucial point of being a councillor. We will be your voice on the council, and therefore we desire your vote to get us on that council so we can serve you for the best and the best for Swindon.
Thank you, Stan. Tom Butcher from the Green Party.
Hi, I'm Tom Butcher, leader of the Greens in Swindon, and I'm candidate for Queen's Park Ward. Our Green Vision for Swindon offers a hopeful, bold and ambitious vision for our town that focuses on what residents need and want change on most. A rejuvenated town centre, a better leisure offer, housing that is good quality that people can afford to live in, green open spaces with room for nature and a social care system that delivers what it says on the tin, care in our communities. These local elections are set to be like no other. We often hear of how Swindon is a bellwether town, an indicator of the national mood, a dial that moves left and right between red and blue. But politics has changed. People have grown tired of that red and blue switching, being told that change is coming and just seeing more of the same. They are looking for where to place their hope and where is promising real change and change that will actually be delivered. We Greens are big believers in loving our communities and our neighbours and engaging positively with them. We love Swindon, we are part of Swindon, and we want to see it at its best. And we are asking people of Swindon to put their trust and their faith in us to get on with the job of delivering that positive change for our town, of making it the flourishing place that we know it used to be and that it can be again. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. One thing with these elections is finding out about who your candidates are and who you're voting for. So our next quickfire round is 30-second answers about some questions to do with Swindon. Nice and easy to start them off. Let's start with Jim. Your favourite place in Swindon and why?
Big fan of Town Gardens. Love taking the dog there for a walk. It's looking brilliant at the moment with all of the blossom there. And it's a great example of the great work that parishes do in Swindon.
Wonderful. Gary, your favourite local event in Swindon and why?
Oh, wow. That would probably be one of the village fairs that we attend. I represent a rural ward, and we have loads of summer shows. The best one being the pig race in Bishopston.
Fabulous. Favourite local business and why? Tom.
It's the oldest, it's the best. It is an absolute staple of the town, and they make some great beer as well. So, yeah, Arkles.
Thank you. Casey, favourite shop in Swindon and why?
Well, that's a hard one. There's not many left, but I suppose my best is B&M. I love a bit of B&M and a bargain, so that's my favourite shop.
And lastly, Stan, what do you do in Swindon when you're not working?
Well, it's a good question. I work for the Prospect Charity, actually, one day a week in a bookstore, which is the ideal job. If you like vinyl, if you like books, if you like cassettes, it's the place to go. So I do that one day a week. The other time, I used to do a lot of running, but with the elections, I've never had time to do any running. So I hope I get elected and I can run during the free time actually as a councillor.
Thank you, Stan. And also for all candidates, 30 seconds on something most people don't know about you. Starting with Tom.
Got to go first on it as well, eh? Something people don't know about me.
Or most people.
Or most people don't know about me. So I'm a local business owner. I'm a local carpenter and tradesman myself. So I work in the local area. I work a skilled trade, and yeah, I'm a carpenter.
Great stuff. Same question, Casey Sherwood.
I suppose a lot of people don't know about me is the fact that I am a pool player. I love a bit of pool and snooker. Some people call it boring, but as long as I ain't got to count the balls up, I'm quite happy playing it. So that's a bit about me.
Excellent. Jim.
So I think most people don't know that I'm an Ipswich Town fan. Really happy because they got promoted back to the Premier League this weekend. Very exciting.
Gary, same question.
People probably don't know that some years ago I was a qualified football coach. Had to do that in order to get my son into a football team. Dragged the other dads into it. Ended up as manager of the football team and then eventually chair of the football club.
Thank you, Gary. Stan?
Often I don't tell people that I actually am a diabetic, and I've been a diabetic for over 50 years, but I've never let it change my lifestyle. I've been involved in running, that type of thing. And so it's actually something I learned to live with, and I think most people can now, particularly how easy it is now to inject and things like that. And my son is diabetic, and he's a good diabetic as well. Although I must admit I'm prone to eat cream cakes, which may be not the best thing for him.
Thank you, Stan. Moving on to some core questions now. You have 1 minute to answer these. The council spends 30 million a year more than it collects currently, being supported by emergency financial support from central government. What would your party do to bring in more money, or what would you cut costs-wise? Starting with Gary.
We have to sweat the assets. Swindon Borough Council has a huge amount of assets. As part of the exceptional financial support, the Labour administration have sold off income-producing assets. So they've lost £1.3 million a year from an industrial estate that was sold, which is a bit like selling your pension. So we would make sure that those assets that remain with Swindon Borough Council are working harder for Swindon, bringing in an income, and obviously clearly you have to look at costs as well.
Define what you mean by asset for those people that may not know.
Assets. So, for example, most people would know the abandoned park and ride at Piper's Way, which has been empty for many years now. I think I had one of my COVID tests down there. That is a prime site, and that should be redeveloped, and it should be redeveloped at pace. If you look at the town centre, there was an old shop which was demolished at the top of Regent Street. That site is now a piece of tarmac, and it's been sitting there for probably 4 or 5 years now.
Thank you, Gary. Stan, what would you do about the budget?
There's things you can do. You actually have to analyse the budget. You don't really know until you actually go over it and see where their savings can be made. The unfortunate thing is every time you have a local election, people always say we will make savings, but they don't tell you where they're coming from. So you have to look at that. The idea of selling assets is all well and good, but there's such a big protection. And I'll give an example. It's the local plan where we're talking about housing and that, but people don't want to lose their green spaces. So you have to think very, very, very carefully when you look at trying to get to sell assets, because they're so, in many respects, actually some part of people's lives and actually what they believe Swindon's all about, protecting those assets. So you have to be very, very careful. So if it was going to that, we'd actually make sure we can sell properly before we do any of that, and actually reducing some of our values and actually our heritage.
Thank you, Stan. Jim, you currently control the purse strings. What would you do?
Can I first take issue with the question? It's not £30 million. I've seen the financial outturn today, and we're going to use £5 million of EFS. That's all. So I'm really proud of the work that officers and councillors have done to get our budget on track, and the way that we've been able to deal with the work that we're doing and the challenges that the council is facing through demands increasing for adult services and children's services. And we've managed to do that and cut our costs without affecting frontline services. And that's what's really important. Gary's right that we've taken the decision that we sold an industrial estate, but that's because I don't think the council's best placed to run an industrial estate. The council is best placed to deliver services for vulnerable adults, vulnerable children. That's where we want to focus our efforts. That's where, if we get it right, we can make a real difference to the people of Swindon. I'm really proud of the job that we've done sorting out the finances, which were in a mess when we came in. And I think we're on track to really deliver for the people of Swindon.
Casey.
So from my time at Swindon Borough Council for 18 months, I witnessed a lot of wastage, especially in the contract management space. So I think one of the first things to do is start getting a better handle on our procurement process and understanding where the money's going, because I don't think there's sufficient controls in place like there should be, like a compliance contract register, so that we can monitor when our contracts are coming up for renewal and when they need to be, well, tightened or challenged when we're spending more money than we should be.
For those young people in the room, just define what procurement means so they understand it.
In terms of get yourself into contracts, and I witnessed a lot of spending that I don't understand why we wasn't tightening and understanding when our contract was up for renewal, and then we ended up on a worse contract as a result of it because we wasn't managing it. And Lisa Hall, the chief legal officer, has been trying to get this compliance register in for many years, with very little support from the rest of the officers. And that's because each of those control their own procurement, and it needs to be brought together as a collaborative register.
Thank you. Tom?
Yeah, so we've touched a little bit there on adult and children's social care, but I really want to press that point. Adult and children's social care makes up around 85% of the budget for the council, and that is increasing. Jim has said rightly that demand is going up for that. We have to get on top of that, and we have to utilise investor save opportunities there. We have to make sure that we are bringing services back in-house. A huge amount of that money that is spent on adult and children's services is to pay private companies to provide those services for us. So we need to get away and get out from under these private profiteering companies that are taking money from our public purse for caring for your elderly relatives, and they are making obscene amounts of profit off of it. We have to make sure those services are fully delivered in-house by Swindon Council officers that are well trained and able to deliver a quality service for an affordable cost. We have to make sure that we're pressing ahead with that at pace, and we have to, as I say, make some capital investments along the way with that will save us money in the long run.
Thank you, Tom. Some quick fire policy choices now, and covering a range of different topics. First up, Swindon Oasis. Do we take it back from Severn Capital or continue to work with them to come up with a plan? Stan?
Ideally, it'd be nice to take it from them. It's actually we can invest ourselves, but we all know our severe problems. So the idea of working with them, I think, is the way to go forward. But I think everybody would like to see the iconic Oasis return to the people and become an icon as it was before.
Thank you, Tom.
Get it reopened in full with a sports hall, make it a green oasis with renewable energy at its core that makes it viable in the long run, and make sure it stays open for decades to come for the community of Swindon.
Gary?
Stop the messing around with Seven Capital. They've taken far too long. We would make sure that we look immediately at whether or not there are options, legal options, to break the contract with Seven Capital, because they promised and they promised and they promised and they've not delivered.
Casey.
So with Oasis, I'm gutted I can't take my kids there because I had some great childhood memories there. But I think what's important is that we protect it, but also for a longer period of time. We don't want a quick fix. It needs to be the right offer, the right decision, the right contract that protects its future for time to come. And if that does mean that we need to put investment in there from external bodies, then we need to do that. And I think we need to protect it.
So just to clarify, would you try and take it back from Seven Capital?
Well, I don't like the way they're doing it at the moment, so I would definitely say that we need a better control of Seven Capital if that continues. But they need to be pushed to do more.
Thank you. Jim?
I was really pleased to see the news come out last week that there is now an operator agreement in place, and hopefully that is one of the key steps that was needed before we see the planning permission come back imminently, and hopefully that planning permission can get passed and we can see work start on the Oasis. So the planning permission is already passed for the Oasis refurbishment. We need to get the rest of the deal in place so that they've got the space and the funding to be able to do the work that they want to do. We haven't got a spare £30 million to spend on the Oasis, so we need to work with Seven Capital to get it open as soon as possible for future generations of Swindonians to enjoy.
Next topic, potholes. The number one conversation on the doorstep, apparently, with candidates. Again, quick fire answers for me. Do you increase spending to fix more? Do you keep the budget the same, or do you reduce the budget on pothole fixing? Casey, you first.
Prevention is what you need. We looked at software that would identify potholes earlier, quicker and more efficiently, so they're not left for longer and costing us more money. We need to invest in the right tools to be able to do the job properly, because then we're not wasting money. And that was put to the council and it was rejected because the legal team said, once we know about potholes, we have to fix them, so it's better we don't know. So prevention is what's key there.
Thank you. Jim?
I'm not sure that that's quite right from Casey. So we've been doing some work with the bus companies recently. Bus companies are currently trialling a program where they film the road as they go around to try and identify where those potholes are forming, and then we can use that data to be able to go and fix them. Really pleased that we've got more money in from the government, so it means we can deal with more potholes more quickly. But the other thing that's really important is not just patching potholes, it's fixing entire bits of road like we've been doing at Westcott Place, County Road, Southbrook Street, Sumner Street, doing the whole street, making sure that the road surface is there and is ready to last for years to come.
Thank you, Jim. Stan, how would you deal with potholes?
Well, I'd say the council has always been looking into it, but that's not quite what's happened. It's been there every year. Every year I've been a councillor, that's all the way going back to 1985. Potholes have always been an issue, but now they seem to be reaching a peak because it's quite more and more time you actually get to talk to people about it. Also, they have ruined my suspension because of the potholes. So it has to become a priority. The example of Wiltshire Council beside us, actually, they've put more money into potholes and it's bringing rewards. We have to do that, so it does mean more expenditure on potholes.
Thanks, Stan. Gary?
Do the job properly and do it once. The problem that we have is that potholes are reported, potholes are filled. A few weeks later, the potholes are breaking up again. So yeah, admittedly, there's some additional funding that's coming from the government to Swindon Borough Council to improve the amount we can spend on highways, but that needs to be spent wisely and the job done once.
Tom?
Yeah, as Gary's just said, the budget has already been increased from what the government is giving to the local council. That is something I'll quite happily say that the Labour government has done a good thing for. But I think we should focus as well on how much time we spend worrying about the potholes here. This should be an area of our local services that should be a given, that should just get repaired, and we shouldn't have to have residents raising it so often. So we will get on with the job of repairing them, yes, but we need to look at the wider picture as well. We equally hear very often from residents of issues such as footpaths and maintaining pedestrian, cycling and bus access as well, not just for cars and potholes.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Swindon is quickly becoming a cluster for defence and drone companies in the town. Do we support those companies moving to Swindon, limit them or oppose them? Starting first, Gary.
We support them. I think it's a great thing in terms of we helped Panettone get the consent on the Honda site, and that opened up opportunities for all sorts of businesses to come in. Drone companies are a growing sector, and it's fantastic that we've got this investment in our town.
Great. Tom?
Accepting of the fact that they are coming here and we acknowledge that they are employment and engineering employment. But I think we have to really consider the purpose of the drones that are being made there. These are weapons of war that are being made. We are seeing the world in a very difficult place at the moment. And the more drone companies that come here, put down their roots to stay long-term, means that there are more bombs being dropped around the world. So while we're accepting of them, it is not something we are ambitious for, as it has been described as previously by our Labour MP, for example.
Thank you. Casey?
I think it's key that we get investment into Swindon to order to give it give it what it needs in terms of let it prosper like it should. So I wouldn't turn away any investment. And I think if anything, we need to be more thinking outside the box to get more investment back into the town.
Thank you. Jim?
I'm really pleased to see good investment coming in and skilled jobs coming back to Swindon. We were really concerned when we took over that we knew that we had employment land on the Panettone site, and it felt like a lot of the people that were looking at that were logistics and warehousing companies, which weren't going to deliver the skilled jobs that we wanted to create. I'm absolutely delighted that we're harking back to the town's advanced manufacturing heritage, creating some really good jobs, but more importantly, doing the important work around skills to make sure there's clear pathways for young people in Swindon to be able to get those jobs.
Thank you. Stan?
Yes, I do believe that actually this is a chance actually to keep ourselves abreast of actually the growth in technology. The idea that these drones actually, they bring in good things as well. We always think about it as defensive, but they are enlightening actually of actually viewing as well. Anybody who ever seen these nature programs, you understand the value of them. They are high tech, and therefore they bring skills in which will come to Swindon. So that would definitely be a growth. Because I do get a bit perplexed about the growth of warehousing. It's not exactly the most in useful technology. So these drones and their technology that comes with them would be a benefit to Swindon.
Thank you, Stan. Next, quickfire round, council housing. Do we build more? Do we keep the levels the same? Or do we reduce the provision of council housing? First, Casey.
We need to look after the ones we got first before we start buying more. There has been the recent housing inspection report that was done showed that there was some really strong safety concerns for some of our current housing stock, and I think that is what we need to sort first.
Tom?
Build more, lots more. So I'm a carpenter and a builder by trade. I firmly believe in us building a lot of housing in this town. This is an area that Swindon as a council can focus on massively. We have over 4-year waiting lists for council housing at the moment. We have to work on bringing those down. And this is what I was talking about earlier about investor save opportunities. Investing in council housing saves money in the long run for other services for the council. It's the right thing to do and people need homes to live in. So we will invest in lots of council housing.
Thank you, Jim.
So it is a balance of investing in our current stock and building new council housing. The Conservatives left our housing stock in a real state when we took over the council. A number of those houses didn't meet the decent home standard. So we've invested a record amount in fixing the council stock that we've got, but we also need to do more to build more council houses to get the waiting list down and make sure that everyone in Swindon has got access to a really good, decent home.
Gary, you might have a reply for that one.
Yeah, absolutely. We need to build more. We don't need to just spend money trying to bring old accommodation up to scratch. Anybody who drives into Swindon along Queen's Drive will see the new housing that the Conservative administration delivered on the right-hand side as you're coming into Swindon. It's fantastic. I mean, that was a real lift for the people that are now living in those homes.
And Stan?
Yes, houses should be built, and they should be council houses. These actually would be guaranteed housing and actually go with the best conditions possible. They are examples to us all. So council housing should be a top priority. Obviously, bring those up to the state they should be is a key thing. But definitely, we would be in favour of council houses. They will bring people into the property market, particularly now as young people seek homes, and it is the biggest thing you ever will buy in your life. So therefore, the idea of help through council houses is such a good idea and should be pushed as much as we can.
Thank you, Stan. Next question is around national versus local. Give one clear example of how your national party's policies would or could influence a local decision in Swindon. You've got 45 seconds each, starting with Jim.
So I'm really pleased with the work that we've done with the National Labour government. I think we can demonstrate the value of us working together. We've managed to bring in funding for the new entertainments venue, which is going to kickstart that regeneration of the town centre. We've got £20 million coming in to Walcott East and to Penn Hill, which is part of the government's Pride in Place arrangements. Really important. And then I think the other thing that's been absolutely massive is the increase in pensions this month, in the national minimum wage, in the national living wage, and also the new Renters' Right Act coming in. So there's lots of good things coming out of the government at the moment that are going to have a massive impact on people's cost of living in Swindon, which is obviously one of the key challenges facing most residents.
Thank you, Jim. Gary?
The Conservative Party, obviously not in government at present, but have clear policies about supporting small businesses. We've visited some recent businesses in Highworth, and they're all feeling the pressure. They're not taking young people on because they can't afford to, because of the policies that the government have brought in, the additional pressures in terms of national insurance, minimum wage. They genuinely can't afford to take new people on, and they want to. They would love to. So they would love to grow their businesses, but the government are hampering that.
Thank you, Gary. Tom?
Yeah, I'm going to talk about housing again. Our national housing policy and our local housing policies work really well in tandem together. So nationally, the Greens want to bring in rent controls. That is a really core part of making sure that our housing market gets fixed properly in this country.
Can you explain rent control for those in the room?
Absolutely. So rent control is placing caps on how much a landlord can charge you as rent effectively, and capping the market and setting it at a more reasonable level. So I think we have to really acknowledge that housing, in my opinion at least, is the single biggest issue in this country right now, in people's ability to access affordable housing, both at rental and purchasing and through council housing. All of those things in combination have to be fixed to make sure that our housing market is functioning properly. So nationally, rent controls, locally, more council house building, and letting the private market, they will build what they will build, but we need to focus on social housing too.
Thank you, Tom. Stan, national policy influencing Swindon.
Well, the idea that we want to do is bring in the community into more of the things that we do. That's a big Liberal Democrat policy, but it's something I think Swindon actually is envisaged as well. The idea is to actually let people have a say. There's been lots of discussions. I referred to the local plan where they're talking actually about where we should build houses, and that is actually such a thing that is open to discussion and is so violently opposed in certain areas. I was at a meeting in Highworth the other day. The same thing has happened in Broughton. So people want to say and they want to be heard. And I think maybe that's why they're turning away from some of the big national policies, because they feel they're not being heard. So we have to make sure communities are heard as part of the way that councils operate. That is so crucial to actually people supporting the council.
Thank you, Stan. And Casey?
So I just want to be clear, I'm here for local issues because it's a local election. So Swindon is where my first purpose is, and that's what I want to see improve. But I do think that the core message from, in terms of our party is we need to balance the books. We need to get a control on finances so that we can make sure residents are getting what they deserve. So for me, it's all about how we look at council tax, how we leverage other payments, take more control and own it and live within our means.
Thank you very much.
Children.
Thank you. Going to go for a question from the room. Someone asked, why do you think there is a rise in young people's declining mental health? And what would you do to produce better awareness around it in Swindon? Let's begin. Stan.
This is a good question, because I think that a lot of people actually do complain actually about the use of the internet and use of actually Wi-Fi and all this sort of thing, and games. I would say that actually, I always criticise my two sons for playing games all the time. I'm really annoyed with them all the time. They both got jobs in the games industry, which actually proved don't always listen to your father. But no, the idea of actually all the pressures now, there's never been so much pressures. And a lot of that is via telephones, that type of thing, social pressures. So again, it has to be mitigated. The idea of actually the use of actually even telephones in schools, you can understand why schools are worried about that, because it takes away from a good education. So there's lots of factors. We have to work towards making it easier for young people to progress, particularly actually as a future as well. So there's lots of factors, I think, in that worries.
Thanks, Stan. Gary, young people and mental health.
Yeah, so an interesting topic in terms of we've had mental health issues in our family with one of our children, and it is very difficult. There are social media pressures on people looking thin, pressures on what you do in terms of your ambition about where you want to work, what you want to do. It's really, really tough, and I think that the guidance children need starts at school. I think they need a better grounding in terms of where am I going in life? What's my ambition? Can you achieve that? Is it good to move away from home, go to university, for example? Not for everyone.
Thank you, Gary. Casey.
So forgetting politics here, my daughter's 13 and she's been trying to see BU Swindon for 8 months because their lack of funding, no support. So my daughter's struggling because she's not getting the sufficient help she needs. And that is what we need to start right with, getting the books right, getting our finances in order so we can invest in our people and our younger generation, so they're not having to deal with this later on in life. So prevention's key here, giving the support they deserve.
Thank you. Jim?
So I think a lot of the things that people have already said around social media and the pressures on young people at the moment are a real factor, as was the pandemic. And a lot of young people spent time out of school, which was really difficult for them. And I think there are some real concerns about mental health services in Swindon. It is really hard to get an appointment with CAMS. We've seen the news today.
What's CAMS?
CAMS is the Children and Adults Mental Health Service, Children and Adolescents Mental Health Service. And we saw the CQC, the Care Quality Commission, have been doing some work with the Swindon services, saying that they're not up to scratch. So we need to work with the Integrated Care Board to understand why that is. How can we get more investment into those services to make sure that they're running as well as possible? But really, what can we do in that preventative space? And that's the bit that's really interesting for the council. How can we work to get more people supporting our young people to make sure that they've got the support they need before issues turn into big mental health problems?
Thank you. Tom?
Yeah, I'll be honest, I think there's little wonder that young people are feeling the pressure that they are in the modern world today. With all of the things we've heard there, we've got issues, as we say, with social media, but ultimately the life chances that we're giving to young people now are reducing. We've come out of a period of relative peace and stability in the world where older people have been able to access an affordable home, get good jobs, get a good pension. And I think a lot of young people are looking forward in their lives and looking for how will they get home, get a good job, get an education, get all of those things. And those things have been made harder and harder and harder by successive policy decisions by previous elected governments, both nationally and locally. So we have to work on fixing those issues, and we have to work on making sure that we are providing better services for young people, that they can get out and live healthy, happy lives, have good access to leisure, open spaces, and good opportunities in life.
Thank you, Tom. To move to the other end of the spectrum now, from young people to older people. Swindon is expected to have a significantly larger over 60s population by 2030. How would you prepare the town for that in the decisions that you make in the council? Gary?
Essentially, in terms of looking after older people, we need to make sure that they can stay at home living independently for longer and healthier. The problem, it can be solved by allocating more homes in new developments. We've got a new local plan coming forward, which is the houses that we're going to build over the next 15, 20 years. We need to make sure that there's a sufficient focus in there, not just on retirement homes, but on places where people can live independently on their own, and not just first-time buyers accommodation, but for older people.
Thank you. Jim?
So a lot of it is the same answer around the challenges for young people. It's about making sure that the services that are there for those people are as good a quality as possible, and that we're putting pressure on the healthcare providers to make sure that those services are as good as they can possibly be. And then where can the council get involved in preventative work to try and support people early on so that we can get them the support they need before their problems turn out to be really big and expensive and difficult for them to deal with and much harder to manage. So it's about those preventative services. How do we get into that space to make sure that we can support people, as Gary said, to live in their houses for longer so that they're not putting a drain on society? How do we build communities that are really supportive so that elderly people get that support from the wider community?
Thank you. Tom?
Yeah, so we believe simply, again, prevention is better than cure here. We believe in investing in programs such as a Move Together Swindon for older people to be able to do some gentle exercise, walking and gardening for over 60s. We want to have programs where older people are put in touch with schools and other community groups in the area where they can work with young people then to have intergenerational services where they get together for shared storytelling.
Intergenerational, just clarify?
Intergenerational, yeah, so older people and young people coming together. So yeah, kids at school and, as I say, over 60s, retirees, etc. It will help solve social isolation. It helps when older people and young people meet together, they can meet in a really positive way. So to give one example, if I can, very quickly. I used to run a youth club, and our best volunteer that we had there was an old lady called Carol, who was in her 70s, and she was fantastic at working with the young people there. And the amount of times that I saw her work with a young person that's come from a really difficult place and help each other through that.
Casey?
For me, it's about a bit similar to what Jim and Gary said. It's about prevention, getting the right support in at the right time before it's too late, because that's what leads into further then issues which they need more support with. But also, I think in making investments in the right place and contract management again around some of those care providers to make sure we're getting the service we're paying for. But also, there is tools out there. When I was at the council, we implemented something called Magic Notes for the adult social care, but it took 18 months to roll out. We could have done that a lot sooner, and we could have got some of our care professionals spending more time with people, giving them the care that they want rather than doing paperwork, because those tools help them be more efficient in their role.
Thank you. Stan?
Yes, I think it's a blend of all those things. The idea of actually making sure they can get care at home, because most people do like to stay at home. It's actually where they've lived most of their lives. They want to stay there. So I think that has to be the top thing. And we've actually have something in the past. But it's actually good to see people all of one with that. The idea that people get care at home so they can live their lives as they wish. Care homes to be of a good standard. Again, a lot of the things the council do has to ensure that is. Now that does happen. But the other thing is actually to give people, a good reason for living. The actual idea of getting involved, the idea of going to schools. I've been involved in actually people going to schools and talking about what it was like in the Second World War, that type of thing. The idea of actually, and they can actually tell people how it was like, so they can get a real grasp of history. That is so important, I think, because history, as we all know, does repeat itself, as we may be going through now.
Thank you, Stan. Next up, children's services. Swindon Children's Care System is very expensive to the Borough Council, with some children's placements costing over £7,000 per week per child. And as was mentioned earlier, the total adult health and social care and children's services budget uses up 80% of all the money that comes in to Swindon Borough Council. How would your party begin to address this challenge? Let's start with Stan.
The big thing is actually to have a review of where we are. I've got a sort of involvement with that because some of my relations actually involved with children actually are part of that. The idea of getting special care, they actually have to have tested before they go and before they can take their care package. So that should be made easier. And all schools should have that function. And I think that has come. There's a lot more integration now in our schools. So people actually with learning difficulties are part of the school. And that's essential now because it does seem to be, it's a growing phenomenon. When I was young, it didn't seem to be like that, but it certainly has taken off now. Whatever it's down to, we don't know. But I think we have to be able to cope with it and give them the best we possibly can. So I'm totally in favour of actually doing that, whichever the resources are needed.
Thank you, Stan. Gary, how do you deal with children's services?
As mentioned in the question, obviously the costs are huge. The Labour administration came up with the idea of buying one house to house a couple of children. The reality is that the private sector will go out and rent houses. So there are rental houses available where you could house one or two children with similar needs at a much reduced cost than paying the private sector to do that. And that could be done at pace. So instead of waiting for a year, that could be done very, very quickly.
Private sector, for those that might not understand the term?
So there are private companies that look after children with special needs, for example, in a house setting, and they may have 2 or 3 carers, hugely expensive. That could cost hundreds and hundreds of thousands of pounds per year.
Thank you. Jim?
So we have brought forward those plans to set up our own children's home. So at the moment, Swindon Borough Council looks after around 360 children, and far too many of those are being looked after too far away from Swindon. So around half of those are more than 20 miles away from the borough. We've worked really hard to get that number down, and we are slowly making an improvement on it. We need to build that first house and get it right. And once we've got the model right, the plan is to build more. But it's really important that we get that model right. We can't just set up, and I understand Gary's point about working at pace, but it's about making sure we do it right. We can't be experimenting with these young children. We need to make sure that the model works, that the staff that we've got are the right people, and that the support that we can give those children is the right support to really make it work. So it's more important to get it right than to do it really quickly. We're bringing the cost down. There's plenty of other ways that we can work on that budget to make it work, but we can't afford to be reckless with those young people's life. Really important that we look after the young people in our care as well as we possibly can.
Thank you, Jim. Casey?
So this is an area that I'm quite close to and I'm quite passionate about. But I think for me, it's all about, like someone said down there, so I didn't get the name, but you review what's going on, what is the council facing, and then you start to look at, okay, how do we improve that journey? Could it start from birth? Are we doing the right, public health duties that we should be doing so people are getting the right support early on, then going into preschool, school, secondary school? Because at the moment, those links are breaking in the way and we're losing people, whether it be SEND or whether it be placement in school. We need to look at it as a journey for whole. How does that baby get to adulthood, and how do we support it best we can with the money we can have, in the right way, because it's their future.
Thank you. Tom?
Yeah, so our policy is simple. Swindon Homes for Swindon Children. As we've heard already, too many children are placed far too far away from Swindon when they're placed into care. We've heard stories of them being placed as far away as Newcastle. Now, that requires a social worker to travel and visit them on a regular basis. So rather than being able to visit a number of children in a day in Swindon, it takes multiple days to visit one child. That adds to our cost massively as a council. So we need to bring those services back into Swindon that the council can control and own. I think it's fanciful ideas, frankly, and it's unsurprising to hear from the estate agent in the room that he'd like to use the private rental market, frankly. And we need to work at pace. That is the one bit of what he said I do agree with him on. The Labour administration right now is going far too slowly on this. They are doing the right thing by investing in one children's home, but they need to be investing in a lot more of those. And just as a final point, the Mockingbird trial for foster replacements as well, we want to see that spread out much further. We need to keep more foster carers in the system and make sure that they are providing long-term placements, because that is a very cost-effective way of providing care too.
Thank you, Tom. Some individual questions now for each of the candidates. Stan, in the last 10 years, Liberal Democrats have lost councillors locally and have had limited visibility in this campaign. Why should voters trust their vote won't be wasted this election?
Because Liberal Democrats' success has all been about targeting, and that's why we've got 72 MPs in the last general election. So we actually are targeting wards where we can win, but we always want to give people the alternative to vote Liberal Democrat for the values we stand in. So that's the truth of it. So we are targeting wards, and we're doing such a lot of work in those wards, but there are ones that are actually just providing a candidate because people want to have the ability to vote for a Liberal Democrat. So we are providing that. We're doing hard work in the council, wards where we believe we will win, but we're also actually providing candidates where we think that people do demand a Liberal Democrat vote.
Stan. Jim from Labour, you've had 3 years in control of the council and achievements have been highlighted tonight. But nationally, your party might be losing confidence. Why should voters separate local and national Labour politics?
The local election, this is a question about who you want to run your local town for the next 4 years. It's not a question about who's the government. And I'm really proud of the work that we've done in terms of bringing forward the base youth centre, in terms of bringing forward the money for the new entertainment venue, in setting ourselves up as the drone capital of Europe and making sure that we get that investment into Swindon. People are talking about Swindon in a really positive way at the moment. I'm really pleased that we're on the long list for City of Culture. There's lots of good things happening in Swindon. Stick with it. Stick with the Swindon plan that we've created in partnership with residents, and you can see Swindon continue to deliver and develop over the next 4 years.
Thank you, Jim. Gary from the Conservatives, you had 14 years in power nationally and locally. Why should voters believe you can deliver change locally now?
We were in control, as you say, for 14 years nationally, 19 years locally, and we delivered a lot locally in terms of the working with Honda when the task force was set up as they were closing that site. 3,000 jobs immediately lost, plus lots in the supply chain. We worked with them to make sure that some alternative came into the town. We brought in businesses, we brought in things like the money for the health hydro, in terms of Fleming Way in the town centre. That looks fantastic now. It's a bright new entrance to our town. The Conservatives had lots of long-term plans, and we can get the council back on track again.
Thank you, Gary. Casey from Reform. There's been limited public presence of some candidates in the elections. Why should voters trust your party is now ready to govern?
Because we're real people facing real problems. We're not just picking and cherry picking the good news stories. We're bringing together the stories that also are tough and challenging to work through. But we are business people, we are SMEs in our own field. And I believe strongly, hence why I picked this party to stand in, that we have the right people to do the right job to get this town back where it should be, so that you younger generations aren't paying for the debt that's going to be left behind.
Thank you. Tom, there's concerns around national spending and taxation. Why should voters trust your approach won't worsen the current financial position of Swindon?
Sure, because we're investing in the longevity of the town, ultimately. Our financial approach is one that puts us on a stable, long-term financial footing. It invests in core services, it invests in what matters most in Swindon for the people of Swindon. And importantly, that investment helps us bring down revenue spend. So a council has their capital investment and they have their operational spend, their day-to-day spending. by making capital investments, by investing smartly and growing the town through that way and being an incubator and a leader for the town, especially in our town centre, on delivering that growth, you deliver multiple pounds back for every pound that you spend as a council in growth in the town. So we are about growing the town and making sound investments for it.
Thank you, Tom. Another question from our audience. Like in Portsmouth, they have a youth parliament, or in some places, youth cabinets that actively represent young people's voices, even when they can't vote. Why doesn't Swindon have one? And would you support creating one for young people in Swindon? Let's start with Casey.
I don't know why they don't have one, to be honest, but I definitely would support it. I think young people have got a lot they can offer, and I think there's only stuff we can learn from them. Because politics is tough, and I think everyone is starting to lose faith in politics. So let's bring new generations forward and let them have ideas and listen to them and see what we can do to support them in their life and their journey.
Thank you. Tom?
Yeah, absolutely, we would. So it's something that I found really great with the Green Party especially. We've been focusing on young people in Swindon, and as a party we've been focusing on our young Greens, for example. Young people are really motivated about politics and about the future of our town and of our country. So getting them involved, especially young, involved in local politics and involved in shaping the future of the town is massively important. We have to hear from young voices. So as I say, our young Greens voice, for example, has been used to help formulate some of our policies in our manifesto, because we want to make sure that we are leading on listening to young people. So yeah, we would absolutely look at starting up a young person's council as well.
Thank you. Stan, young people.
Yes, I very much like that idea. When I was mayor of Swindon, what we did there, we actually brought schools in and took over the council chamber, and they had a debate there. So they actually played politics, and it was such a success. You know, you can still do that, Jim. I think you can. Schools can come in, take over the council chamber, and have a debate. It's a great way of actually seeing how politics works. And it's so important now, the idea of a youth parliament, particularly as the government's policy, like ours, is actually to have voting ability at the age of 16, which isn't far away from anybody in a young time. So the idea of actually getting involved in politics, having a youth parliament is such a good one, and it is something for the future, because our future is coming very quickly.
Thank you, Stan. Jim?
So Swindon did have a youth parliament when I first started as a councillor. It was one of the things that sort of stopped under the Conservatives. I'm not sure why it stopped. More than happy to work with young people to get their voice in. We've done a lot as an administration to hear from young people. We work a lot with Way, Swindon, and Youth Swindon and Wiltshire. We actually got them in to write our public health report a couple of years ago to make sure it was all focused around the challenges that young people were facing in the town, and we used that to inform our work in the area. The mayor is sat over there. She's done a brilliant job this year of getting young people into the council chamber, getting them to understand how the council works and be involved in the decision-making process. More than happy to find new ways to do that. We've looked to do Let's Talk Swindon sessions specifically for young people at various schools. More than happy to keep that going, and really pleased that we've got a policy about delivering cheap bus fares for young people, because we know how difficult it is for them to get around and be able to access the youth opportunities, the work and the college, school that they all have to do.
Thanks, Jim. Gary?
It's an interesting one. I chaired or judged a debate recently in one of the Blue Kite Academy schools for young people, and it was fantastic to see them debating real live issues in terms of social media use and things like that, even priorities on what lessons should be taught in school. So I fully agree, we should interact more. We'd like to hear from young people more. I've got a 16-year-old Billy up there with us here tonight, who's a fantastic supporter of our party, and it's great seeing young people want to be involved.
Thank you. Moving on to business costs. There have been national minimum wage increases, business rates increases, and national insurance increases, and lots of businesses have been saying locally that they're feeling the pinch. How would your party address those needs of those businesses? Stan?
That's a good question, because I say the idea of a minimum wage, I think, could well be supported by most people. I think the government was unaware of the effect it may have had on businesses, particularly the leisure businesses, the idea of cafes operating like that and what the effect it would have on there. So it does need to be addressed. But the idea of a minimum wage, I think, is a good one. We should all have a minimum wage so you can actually live life in a good way. But there was issues with it, and therefore I think they are trying to be addressed by looking actually what help they can give to businesses so they can actually maintain that minimum wage but actually still flourish. So they're trying to get that balance right. It's something governments and councils sometimes get wrong, and hopefully that's going to be addressed.
Thank you, Stan. Tom.
Yeah, so we want to focus in the short term on meanwhile uses for some of the spaces in the town centre.
Define meanwhile uses.
Meanwhile uses is, so take our tented market, for example, that stood in the town vacant for a long time. A meanwhile use is where we can then work with the landlord or the owner of that building to get people in there to use that building short term. That could be community groups, that could be charities or whatever else. So we want to look at a lot of meanwhile uses for a lot of those empty buildings in the town centre. We need to breathe some life back into the town centre and increase the footfall in the town centre to better support the businesses there as well. And we need to work as a council on things like further improving the public transport and ways for people to get to the town centre to get that life back in there and get people living in the town centre more as well.
Thank you. Gary.
We want to do what we can to help our businesses. They are really, really struggling and many of them are closing. We've proposed a 30-minute free parking in the town centre, which would support our businesses. It would start to get people back in. The administration have basically lowered the costs of long-term parking in the town centre, but people aren't spending long in the town centre. They want to pop in for a short while, get something, go away again. We would help businesses do that. You know, the government are piling pressures on local businesses. There is little we can do as a council about that, other than bring in supportive policies that help them to their businesses to thrive, to make the street scene better, to rid the town of graffiti so that people want to come into it.
Thank you. Jim.
So it's a balancing act, like many things in politics. It's really important that there's the minimum wage increase so that people have got enough money to live on. But obviously that puts pressure on small businesses who are employing some of those people. But it also puts more money into their customers' pockets. It's a balancing act. You have to be really careful how you try and manage it. We'll do what we can as a council. We recently introduced 20-minute parking along Commercial Road to try and support those independent businesses in the town centre. The reaction straight away, we want half an hour's free parking. You know, businesses are always going to want more from people. They're always going to be asking us, and we've got to try and get that balancing act right in the middle. We want to try and support trade in the town centre, which is why we're looking to get that massive investment in the entertainment venue. It's why we're looking at the parking charges to try and make it more cost effective for people to go there, stay longer and spend more money. But it's always a balancing act. It's really tricky to get things right, and you have to watch out for small businesses because they'll always want more no matter what you give them.
Thank you. Casey.
I think you need to just go and talk to businesses. I spent a good 20 minutes talking to one of the business owners in the bottom of the town centre, and he said to me, the more I do, the more you want, and I get nothing in return. He said, in terms of the business rate goes up, yet my sewage is all blocking up and no one's fixing it. The council don't seem to care. They don't seem to be giving me anything for what I'm paying for. VAT's gone up. I have to pay more in national insurance. So actually, I'm unable to employ people now, and that would be a good opportunity for a young person to start their career. And I think that's what's sad is people are working themselves to the bone trying to keep their business afloat because everything's against them. And I think that's where we need to look at getting investment into the town centre so that we can support these businesses more and giving them what they need to prosper.
Thank you. A lot of public opinion is defined by national leaders and how they lead their parties. How similar are you to your national leader and the party that they control? Stan.
Well, interesting question, because Ed Davey is such a good leader, and obviously we've seen the return on the amount of Liberal Democrats elected. He has got an interesting technique of getting publicity by doing very odd things. You know, and funny enough, I have done odd things in my life, which I am able to talk about. The idea, I was one of the dames in Cinderella. Can you believe it? But that was actually supporting Dorking performing arts. There are lots of things. The idea of doing something to get attention is very good. You see a lot of politicians doing runs and things like that, and that's good. So I think there is something in Ed Davies' idea: get attention, and it focuses on the things you're trying to actually just talk about. So I think he's a good man doing a very good job.
Thanks, Stan. Gary, Kemi Badenoch's your leader?
Kemi Badenoch visited Highworth the other Friday and was talking to small business owners. People in the streets were asking for selfies. I'm not saying I'm necessarily going to be doing the same, but she can cut through to people. And actually, I think I'm good at talking to people. I talk to local businesses regularly. I talk to people living all over Swindon, young people, older people, and they know that I'm going to listen to them and understand them. And Kemi's doing exactly the same, and she's really, really cutting through of any of the leaders at the moment.
Thank you. Jim.
So I have to say, my football team doing really well at the moment. Keir Starmer's football team about to win the Premier League. So I think we've got that in common. I like to think I'm a little bit more popular than he currently is.
Thank you, Jim. Casey.
It's a tough question, to be honest, but I think what I like about Night Balls, it challenged the norm, and he will challenge what our everyday life. And I think, yes, sometimes that's not always welcomed, but sometimes you need to ask those questions to really find out what the nuts and the crannies are of it all. So for me, that's what I like about him, is he is putting his head above the parapet, and he is challenging people, and he's putting accountability on people, which is what we need to do in Swindon to get the right outcome.
Thank you. Tom, new leader in Zach Polanski. How similar are you?
I would say I like to try and be quite similar to him in his approach. He is very plain speaking, very upfront and very direct with people. I feel that those are qualities that I try and embody myself as well and aspire to be more like him in that sense. I think that there is a lot of mistrust in politics at the moment, and people have very little faith in politicians, frankly. And that's something that I'm personally trying to set about changing, and I believe Zach is as well. As individuals, I think we're very different people, and I think that's can be said for a lot of the Green Party. We are very different, diverse and individual, interesting people that have all come together around shared values and shared interests on making our community better. So.
Thank you, Tom. Now moving to closing statements. Your opportunity to convince the voters online and those in the room that your party is the one to choose on Thursday in the elections. You have 1 minute to talk about what you would achieve for Swindon and why you think the general public should be voting for you. Let's start with Tom.
So our message for Green Swindon is one filled with hope, ambition and a drive to deliver and improve Swindon. It's about putting the heart back in our communities, about bringing people together around our shared purpose and about recognising we are bigger than our differences. We want to deliver a town that flourishes, that is nourished, that gives space for nature and for people to grow together. When we say we're ambitious for our town, we mean it, and we mean to see through that ambition with deliverable policies that are attuned to the needs and the wants of our residents. Put plainly, we are bringing hope back to politics. We are making hope normal again. And we are doing it with a fantastic slate of experienced candidates from all walks of life. We are the builders, engineers, lawyers, teachers, growers, organisers, doers and community activists. And we are Swindon. So on the 7th of May, if you want to make hope normal again, vote for the Greens.
Thank you, Tom. Casey.
I think in terms of what I stand for is I'm a local person. I love Swindon. I brought up my family. I'm a hardworking dad, and at the moment I feel like the council's failing my children, and that is why I think you should put your trust in me and Reform, because we are thinking outside the books in terms of we're trying to get more discussions happening about the stuff people don't want to talk about. We want to balance the books. We want to make sure money's being invested in the right place so that our core services don't suffer in the future.
Thank you. Stan.
Yes, this is one of the most interesting elections I've ever been involved in, because it's so close by everybody. So I believe the end result will not be a Liberal Democrat council, but actually will have a major role in it. And I think that may be the case. It could well be a hung council. So each individual councillor you elect will have their special power, the eye to make policies. And they will be doing it for 4 years, 4 long years. So it's very important you elect the people that you believe in. Liberal Democrats are standing for what they are, i.e. the go-between between you and your council and getting things done for you. I think that is the role of a councillor, and it's something the Liberal Democrats will champion throughout this campaign. You will actually have the ability to elect that council for 4 years, so you have to make the right decision. I believe the Liberal Democrats are the right decision for you as individuals and for Swindon as a whole. We want to make Swindon succeed and be a great place to live and work.
Thanks, Stan. Jim.
Thank you very much. So tonight you've heard a range of views about Swindon's future, and it's your opportunity to cast a vote that is going to determine what that future will be for the next 4 years. I hope that I've been able to convince you that a vote for Labour is a vote to continue the hard work that we've been doing, to stick with that plan that we've put in place. We've been able to secure investment, we've been able to create new jobs, we've been able to get that investment into the town centre and start to really restore some pride to Swindon. There are other parties who are looking to work with division and distrust, to use the anger and the frustration that people are feeling at the moment to drive each other apart. And that's not what I want for Swindon. Swindon's better than that. I think that if we work with a Labour government, Labour MPs, unlock even more for Swindon, we can see that our best days are ahead of us, not behind us. This is not the time for a protest vote. It's the moment to choose progress. So let's go forward together. Let's be ambitious for Swindon. Let's put Swindon firmly back on the map and let's vote Labour.
Thank you, Jim. Gary.
With the obviously widely expected implosion of the support for Labour, mainly thanks to the government, you should vote for an experienced Conservative team who understand this council. We have the experience to hit the ground running in terms of running the council, and we would look after what is here in our town. You know, our town is not clean. Our town is not welcoming. Our town is not inviting. We would do immediate things. You look at the Wyvern Theatre, ripped seats. It's in a terrible state. You must all see this. We would do things immediately like that. Long-term entertainment venue, fantastic. Mecca in Regent Circus want to expand, and they have the opportunity to expand. We would deliver things for Swindon in terms of additional jobs coming in, the skills. We already invested £25 million in the Institute of Technology, which is a fantastic resource for Swindon. We want to go further with that. So please vote Conservative, vote experience. Don't vote for somebody who is going to risk your future.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you to all of our candidates. Thank you to our studio audience, to Create Studios, and to MC Online Events. And thank you for everyone watching online at home. If you're eligible to vote, make sure you take the opportunity on Thursday and have your say. This election, as many people have said, will shape the direction of Swindon for the next 4 years. You can watch this debate back online, share it with friends, add your comments to the debate and get involved. So from all of us here at Swindon 24, thank you for joining us. Thank you to the candidates and good night.